Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about one of the most often asked questions that I hear, and that is how to ship your products from the warehouse in China, from your supplier to Amazon's warehouse. This stuff can get kind of confusing. There's a lot of different terms like DDP, DDU, XWorks, FOB. In this video, I'm going to explain all of these different things and show you step by step how to ship products from your factory to Amazon's warehouse. I'm going to try to do this as quickly and concisely as possible, and let's jump into it. All right, how to ship to Amazon FBA warehouse, a step-by-step tutorial. Let's go. First thing that you need to know is some different terminologies. First, we have XWorks and free on board. You'll often see these as EXW and FOB. Why it's important to know this first is because when you're getting quotes from your supplier, oftentimes they will quote you in terms of EXW or FOB. So what does that mean? XWorks simply means that the price of the product does not include shipping to any location. So the price that you're paying is simply for the factory to produce the goods there, and that's their only obligation. FOB, on the other hand, is the price of the product, but also includes the shipment from the factory to the port in the country. So for example, if you have a product that is being manufactured in China and the supplier gives you FOB pricing, that means that you're paying for not only the product, but for the factory's obligation to move your product to the nearest port after production is complete. I personally always like to get EXW pricing, XWorks pricing, because I like to see what the base cost of the product is alone. I don't want to see shipping prices baked into the cost of goods. Next up, you'll see DDU versus DDP. These are Incoterms. There's a lot of different terms, but today we're just going to cover these two as they're the most commonly used. DDU stands for Delivered Duty Unpaid, and DDP stands for Delivered Duty Paid. What this basically means is whether or not your price of shipment includes duties and taxes. So if you get a quote from your freight forwarder, you ask them, I want to ship this amount of goods to the US in some certain location, and they give you DDU pricing, delivered duty unpaid pricing. This is the price of the shipment before taxes or duties are calculated into that number. And the reason sometimes they do this is because they don't know exactly what customs are going to charge. Oftentimes when you ship by by sea, this has happened to me before, I'll pay the initial quote to the forwarder, and then after my products clear through customs, they'll get an additional document that shows how much of duties that I actually need to pay. When I ship Air Express, I'll typically get DDP pricing. So that means that the forwarder is giving me the price of shipment, which is basically door to door. Door to door means door from the factory to the door at Amazon's warehouse. That means they cover the price includes the cost of duties and taxes and all of these things. Sometimes you might pay more in this case because they have to estimate what the taxes will be. It's good to know the differences when you're getting different quotes from different suppliers. Okay, so now that we've covered some of the most basic terms, we're gonna jump into how you actually make all this work. So when you're doing your product research, you source the product, it's important to figure out all of the costs that are involved, because a lot of times, this is a very common beginner mistake, is you find the product that looks great, the price on Alibaba looks great, you place an order, they start making it, they finish production, and then after everything's done, then you go and you get your shipping quotes, and it ends up being astronomically expensive. And all of a sudden, your costs are basically doubled, or even tripled in some cases. And this nice profit margin that you thought you were getting is completely slashed. So it's so important to get the quotes, at least an estimate of what your shipping costs might be before you place the order for the product, so that you can really understand what your margins are going to be before you start selling. You need to get some crucial information from your suppliers first, and this information includes the carton details. Carton is just another fancy word for a box, and that's the box in which your products will go into. You need to know the weight of the carton, the dimensions, and the contents. In other words, you need to know the HS codes, which is going to be used for duties and taxes. So your supplier should have this information. You know the product you're making, you know how heavy it is, you know the dimensions of it. Oftentimes they can give you the carton information, like your carton is going to be 40 by 25 by 30, and it's going to weigh 15 kilograms. Your goods will be packed in 5 cartons with 100 units each. So this is the information you have to get before you get the quote. All right, so once you get that information, we can start getting the quotes. And there are a couple ways you can do this. One is you can actually ask your supplier if they can ship, if they have a freight forwarder that they use. And in my experience, most suppliers in Alibaba do have their own forwarder that they use that can help you. And so there's some pros and cons to this. One of the benefits is that it's less of a logistical headache. You don't have to communicate with multiple parties like your supplier, your forwarder, the back and forth. They basically take your goods after they're produced and throw them into the cartons and ship them. So it's much less of a headache in that sense. One of the cons is that the supplier now has direct access to your sales channel. They know exactly where you're shipping to, they know where you sell on. They basically know how to sell your product. And so a big problem, at least with Amazon private labelers, is you'll see that factories come in and sell the same product or undercut them. This is a big reason that a lot of people do not like to use the supplier's freight forwarder. It's not that they can't figure out that you sell on Amazon, but if they don't know exactly where you're shipping it to, they don't know all the little steps and intricacies, it makes it that much harder for them to copy you, undercut your business. What I like to use is generally a third-party freight forwarder, and the benefits of this is that they are an independent party, so they don't have much incentive to compromise your supply chain and undercut your product. They specialize in moving products all across the world, so this is their bread and butter, this is their business, and they are experts in this field. The cons of this is that sometimes third-party freight forwarders can have higher prices. You don't have the same relationships with a third-party freight forwarder as a factory. Also, there are a ton of choices for freight forwarders. There's so many shipping companies, so it's hard to know who you can really trust. I like to use sites like Freightos.com, and there's another one called Tryfleet.com. You basically enter in all your information about your cartons, products, where they're shipping to, and different shipping companies will actually bid on your shipment. So it makes like a competitive marketplace to basically win over your shipment. It's also cool because a lot of these companies, you can see the reviews that they have. Okay, so you picked a forwarder. Now what? You've gone through these steps. Now what do? So now we have to create a shipping plan in Seller Central. And instead of just explaining this to you, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how to do it and exactly what your forwarder needs to make this possible. All right, so guys, I'm in Seller Central right now. The way you do this is you're gonna go to your inventory, manage inventory. You're gonna go down to the products that you want to add. You're gonna click right over here on the left-hand side. And then over here up on the top, in the drop-down menu, use send/replenish inventory. It's basically the same steps that you do to get the FNSKU that I talked about in the previous videos. So it says create new or add to an existing shipping plan. We're gonna create a new shipping plan. On the ship from, you enter the address of the factory. So this is important. If you're shipping by air, generally put the address that is the last location that your goods leave from in China. So if you're using your supplier's freight forwarder, you're gonna do the address in China. So you need to ask your supplier, can you please send me your address, your Chinese address in English? And then you need to enter that in to the best of your ability. If you're shipping from your freight forwarder from China, you need to get their address. if you're shipping by sea and your freight forwarder has a warehouse in California, then you need to put the address. First, you need to check with them if they're gonna store the goods at their warehouse in the U.S. In all of the cases that I've shipped by sea, this is what they've done. So I actually put ship from, and I put the address in California, their warehouse address in California. So make sure that you have that information. Next, you have packing type, individual products or case packed products. If you're shipping a private label good and it's the same product in multiple boxes, we're gonna do case packed. Continue to shipping plan. Here it's gonna ask you the units per case and the number of cases. So just for this example, let's say we're shipping we're shipping 100 units and we're shipping 5 cases. Continue. Okay, then the next page, it's asking you who preps. So if you have already printed off the FNSKU and you've shipped and you've given it to your supplier and they've put those on the packaging, or they've put those stickers on the packaging, then we're gonna put merchant. If you have not done that, then you still need those FNSKUs, and you can ask Amazon to do it, but they charge 20 cents per sticker, so it's a little bit expensive. I've never actually used Amazon to do that. I always have the supplier do it for me, or it's on the packaging. So we're gonna do merchant, we're gonna hit continue, and then this part is where I described how to get the FNSKU in a previous video. That's where you print the labels for this page. That's where you get the FNSKU. Since we already did that, we don't need to print those off. We're gonna hit continue, and then review shipment. You can label this whatever you want. It shows you where it's gonna ship to. This shipment will go to Dallas, and we're gonna approve. We're still not done. Still not done. And then after that, we do work on shipment. And then it's gonna ask you some of this information, shipping service. Generally, smaller orders will be small parcel delivery. You can check with your forwarder like how they typically are gonna. If you're shipping a bunch of stuff, then you might want to check if they're gonna do an LTL. Most of the stuff that I've done is small parcel delivery, and then you need to check with them which carrier they're gonna use. In almost every situation I've been in, they've used UPS, United Parcel Service. And then you go down. It says, how will this shipment be packed? Everything in one box, which is not the case because we have multiple boxes, so we're gonna do multiple boxes. And then, once again, it's gonna ask you the units per box. So what do? We did 100, and then the number of boxes, we said 5. And then they're gonna ask you the weight of each box. So these hopefully are all the same. We're just gonna say that our boxes are 25 pounds and the dimensions are 15, 18, blah, blah, blah. One thing that is important to note is Amazon has restrictions on weight and dimensions of certain cartons. So for example, boxes cannot weigh more than 50 pounds, and I believe they cannot be longer than 25 inches on any edge. You need to check this information before you ship your stuff in, otherwise you can be fined. Once you have all that information in and it's correct, you hit confirm, and then number 4 right here, you see shipping labels. It says number of boxes, 5. Print box labels. You hit this button down here, and that PDF is those are your labels. So let's open them up so you can see. So this is what they look like. This is the label for each 5 cartons. So this is what you're going to forward to your freight forwarder and have them stick on the cartons. And generally a good rule of thumb is to have multiple labels for one carton. So I generally say print out 4 copies for each carton so that you have 4 labels on each carton. All right, so let's recap. So first thing you need to do is get all relevant product carton information That includes the dimensions of the carton, the total weight of each carton, and the HS codes of your product so that you can look up duties and taxes if necessary. Sometimes your supplier or your forwarder will do this for you. Number 2 is you need to get quotes. You can either ask your supplier if they have a forwarder that they use, or you can use a third-party forwarder. Some websites that are good for this are Freightos or Trifleet.com. And then the last thing you need to do is finally create a shipping plan in Seller Central. As I just walked through that, I showed you guys how to enter in all the relevant information, and then you print those shipping labels off. You forward them either to your supplier's forwarder or your third-party forwarder, and they will put those on the labels and ship those after you've paid for your shipping cost. And that's it in a nutshell. I hope that video was helpful, guys. This is a big thing that is confusing for a lot of people. I know it was confusing for me when I first had to make my first shipment. If there's any questions that you have about this, or there's some specific things that you still don't understand, please comment down below and I will be happy to answer those questions. Please guys, give my video a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this, more videos about Amazon FBA. I really appreciate you tuning in and checking out my content, and I'll see you in the next video.